Hi and welcome to the Weenie Roads podcast and our spoiler special on Andy Machete's long-delayed The Flash. I'm joined as always by the reverse Flash to my Barry Allen, evil Jose Lopez. That's because he's got a goatee, and as we all know from 60 Star Trek, if you have a goatee, you are evil.
I mean, that was only for a short time when we first met, like 6 years. So I swear that wasn't me. That isn't me now.
And we're also joined by the most villainous of villains, at least in his opinion of Rian Johnson's Looper, so which means he hates all time travel films. And making his third appearance in the pod, it is, of course, Ben Lord. Because that name's sticking. Never going anywhere.
God.
I like Ben Lord. That is a really fun name.
That is a terrible name. It's like the worst version of a porn name ever. And I'm not having it. It's absolutely disgraceful. However, it's lovely to be back.
Let's get straight into it. Let's have a quick look at the plot, basically, before we get into the specifics. Basically, it's Flashpoint, and if you've read the comics or you've watched the Flash TV show, you've already seen this story. And basically, Barry's mum died. Well, exactly. You've seen a version of this story, shall we say? And the film starts off with Barry, being, as he says himself, basically the Justice League's handyman, cleaning up all the mess from stuff that better superheroes do. And he's just, a bit pissy about it. So then he decides to run that fast, and he runs back in time and decides, of course, to save his mother from being killed and prove his dad's innocence. Despite being warned against this by Batfleck himself, Barry does it anyway, and, it just kind of goes a bit Back to the Future too, where Barry arrives in a universe where there is no Justice League or Superman, but another Barry Allen and a certain veteran Caped Crusader. And that's basically it, really. I mean, there's not a lot more to it than that on basic plot points. I think before we get into it, we've got to discuss, first of all, the troubled production of the film. Because this film has basically been sat on a shelf for about 2 years. And the main issue is, of course, the Ezra Miller issue. So the first question is, should they have actually been the film? Ben, what do you think?
Should they bin the film off? Should they have left it on the shelf?
Tax write-off.
Yeah, having seen it, absolutely, they should just stuff it in a bin. I mean, like any movie, regardless of my opinions of this movie, like any movie that has this amount of hurdles to get past before they even properly attach a crew and a team to it, there's something wrong, man. You just know that there's never going to be a good outcome from my point of view. I don't think I can think of a film that's had a rocky start like this that's turned out to be amazing. And if I'm wrong, please tell me. But I can't think of anything that has that redeeming, it went through all these really weird changes and it started out as one thing and became this other thing. But it's brilliant now. I can't think of a single film. So leave it on the shelf.
I'm sure I'll be able to find examples. But yeah,
I was going to say the same. I feel like that's happened.
That's definitely happened.
The accidents have turned out to be great films. But let's just...
We can't think of any right now, though.
If there was a film that had gone through this turmoil and been amazing, we'd have all been able to go, oh, it was that film.
I think what happens is when a film is that good, what I'm thinking of is something from the 80s or 90s where behind the scenes wasn't as prominent. And there wasn't you maybe got Variety reporting on something. But I think there are examples. It's just that it's hard to remember the troubled past. Oh, okay, here's one. Predator actually had to stop production, redesign the alien, and get rid of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And then they rewrote the ending, or they were rewriting the movie as they were filming it with what's his name?
Shane Black.
So they were writing the film. Shane Black was on set. He was a character to be able to keep writing the film. And granted, it's not as many production troubles as the Flash, but it was a difficult production. And The Predator, I think, is a seminal film for action stars.
He's got to the balls there.
I tell you, if you're going to go down that road, then The Crow is probably the same.
Yeah,
because of what happened today. But however, the point that we were trying to make here is what film before it's even started has run into these hurdles.
Oh,
it's
okay.
For
before
me,
it's even started.
It's not about it tripped over itself in the middle of it. No, I can't think of a single film that had so many people attached to it. They jumped on, they jumped off, they messed around. I mean, it happened to a certain extent in the latest Star Wars movies. They were just this guy's going to direct it. This guy's going to direct it. And they weren't fantastic. I enjoy them, but they weren't great. So that's my point.
No, that makes sense.
And I think that moves us on to the next issue, which is the Ezra Miller issue. So obviously they've been quite problematic in the last year or so, getting arrested multiple times, still not been charged with anything, still not like been in front of a jury or a trial. But I think they kind of got off on this because the studio helped them out. They went into all the treatment programs and all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting issue, really, because surely as people, you want studios and filmmakers to actually care about troubled actors and make sure they get the help they need from the outside. And at least from the outside, it looks like that's what DC have done with Miller so far, which is good, right? But then again, I've seen comments online where people outright refuse to see the film because Miller is in it. And they see DC support as a bad thing. On one hand, it's good that the studio and the actor look like they're working for the benefit of, their mental health and the overall. However, the cynic in me says it's purely because they sunk so much time and money into the film that it was coming out no matter what. And they literally trotted Miller out once, with both sides saying the exact right thing that they needed to say. So where do you guys stand on the Ezra Miller issue?
I have to say that I agree with the latter. I think that they had put so much time and effort in not just this film, but the whole Snyderverse. I'm going to lump this into Snyderverse. These are the characters, these are the actors that were created during the Snyderverse, and this is definitely, I think, the final film, definitively, that's going to have these characters.
Well, you got one more, haven't you? You've got Aquaman 2.
Oh shoot! I
Yeah.
did not know about that. But yeah, I think that they just had to the fact that Ezra Miller only appeared on the red carpet and didn't do interviews. There's a lot of allegations against him that I didn't know of mostly until recently. And there's only so much you can kind of brush under the rug, so to speak, or I don't know if you know that term, but there's only many things you can, try to keep quiet before it becomes an issue. So I just say in the short version is I think they were just trying to get it out of the way and move on after this.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of that I agree with. I think the almighty dollar is the biggest problem, overall with this, and especially as Miller is the one actor that they have said is going to be moving forwards into the other movies, which it was the last thing that I read about him. He was going to be the moving forwards. So if they've got a legally binding contract that says that he has to be in the next movies, then the studio's going to have to do everything they can to make sure he's not a trash person.
I wonder if
they are.
Apologies. I wonder if you're right. If you're right in one, because the variation on that I heard that was that the director said if we do a sequel, Miller's the Flash in the next one going forward.
Wow,
but
I didn't know that.
I don't think this film's going to get a sequel. I think they said that. No, I don't think it do. I think this is like the reset button, as it were, for the old DCU. Like you say, it's the end of the Snyder things, even though we've got Aquaman still to come. And fuck knows where Blue Beetle comes and all that as well when it comes out.
I believe I've heard James Gunn reports that the Blue Beetle is the first official new DC movie.
Okay.
So that's a separate universe, and apparently the movie maybe nods to other characters, but it kind of
going to be its own thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Which I am very excited for because obviously I'm Hispanic, and this is a Hispanic, or I don't know what Latin. I don't know what the correct terminology. Some people are very against Hispanic because that means Spain. Okay, this is a very big diversion, but I'm very happy because it's going to be a very Latin heavy cast, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that's one thing. You need representation all over the shop, don't you? Now in superhero movies, and we'll mention this on.
We're just getting it now.
We're just getting it now. Yeah, exactly. So at least we're finally starting to get there. Although you still can't make a superhero film with a female lead without every incel jumping on the internet saying they don't like women. We'll get into that on another one someday. But I think when you looked at the marketing for this film, especially in the UK, it was bizarre because I was at the cinema and there was a trailer for it, and it was about a 40-second trailer, and it said to see the full trailer, watch it online. I'm like, but I'm in the cinema. Like, have you just blown all your marketing budget already? And you said, oh, just watch it online. Here you go. It's like 30 seconds of it.
Wow.
And once the main trailer did come out and it was on TV and everywhere, like the last couple of weeks ago, it was, come see The Flash, starring Michael Keaton as Batman. Also a new Supergirl. And The Flash in small letters. No mention of Ezra Miller's name. And it was just you know, it was all about the logos. It was like, you know, the logo, the Superman logo, the Batman logo, the Flash logo, all fade into each other. And that was it. They was just like, come and see Michael Keaton come back as Batman. And that's basically what they was trying to plug to get everyone in there, to be fair. Now, I was looking at the reviews, and currently, and this will surprise you, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 64% on the tomato meter from the critics, but an 84% audience score. So, audiences have enjoyed it.
Oh.
Okay, here's where I gotta jump in before ahead of you guys. Is I have not watched the shows. I don't really know the character by the comics. All I know is the few cartoons that I watched, and even then that wasn't very much. So when I watched the movie, I came out of it and I'm like, you know what? I really enjoyed it. And then I could tell that the three other guys that I was with had watched the shows because they're like, I was disappointed. And I was one of the only guys there that, I mean, because I knew that they were going to change things and it wasn't going to follow a lot, especially when they revealed who the villain was. But I just remember thinking I enjoyed it as just like a fun movie. I didn't think it was a great movie, but I had fun watching it. And I even mentioned to my friends, like, now I know how Fast and the Furious fans feel, because they got to know these aren't smart movies. But they're just fun to watch. So
that's how I felt when I was watching it, to be fair, man. I was sitting there, and yeah, it's all fan service, a lot of fan service, and like you say, tying off the old DCU. But I was sitting there with a big smile on my face, you know, when Keaton turns up. First time you see Keaton, it's Batman, and he looks like the fucking Big Lebowski with his like long hair and like just his general attitude. I was like, they've just awesome, you know, and it was so weird in play. I mean, the most weird thing, I almost tweeted it out after I saw the film, I was like, I never thought I would see an opening sequence in a superhero film where the hero puts a baby in a microwave. But that's exactly what happens.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed that opening sequence. That was making me laugh out loud. Like the slow-mo shots of the dog falling and all that. And I thought that was a really well done sequence.
That was awful. This movie is trash. I sat there with my buddy Al, who I go see a lot of movies with. And in the middle of that sequence you're talking about, he turned to me and went, "This movie had better get better than this." And I was like, yeah. That not only was it an ill-conceived idea to once again put the Flash at like the bottom of the fucking superhero pile, like, oh, he's just cleaning up the mess that Batman's left. That I've never seen that. Like, I've read a lot of the comics. The Flash is my favorite like character growing up, so I was super excited when they started like announcing stuff for the Flash, and I was like, oh, this is really going to give the character some notoriety. And then, you know, Quicksilver comes out in the Marvel universe, and they dealt with that a little bit ham-fistedly because they, you know, two different versions, and they killed the best version of that one. But like the Flash, this particular movie, and actually the way that Miller has represented the Flash has been mishandled to me in the Snyder universe. They've turned him into like a comic sidekick who's clumsy and useless. In, you know, the Justice League movies, he trips over his own feet, which never happens. Like, you know, a speedster in this universe is like, he moves so fast that if he trips, he can correct himself. Like, there's no stumbling over and being just this stupid comic relief character. Like, that's never
I'll
been.
I agree with you on that, man. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, but surely that's what the start of the film is, though, right? That's surely what it is, because he literally says that. Oh, I'm sick of being, the janitor and all that. They set that up at the start and address it, but then he goes on. Of course, Bruce tells him, "Don't do this," and then he goes and does it straight away because he's a bit of a knob.
I mean, they reference it, of course they do, and obviously there's been a lot of like to and fro about the character, like who the character actually is and what they're using him for. But like, even though they set that up, it doesn't really change much in the movie. He does go from the comic relief to he becomes his own mentor. Like, he goes back in time and then he finds like the other version of himself, and then all of a sudden he just goes from like I don't really know what I'm doing, I could just run really fast, to like, I know everything about being the Flash, therefore I am the fucking hero of this piece and you will listen to me. And then they find a way to make him look even fucking stupider by like making the other version of him just a fucking stoner. Like, I was like, you've misrepresented me in every, like, Barry Allen in the comics is a scientist who, yes, he runs late a lot of the time because that's the irony of his character.
Well, no, he does that on purpose, doesn't he? Well, I thought he does that to mask his...
was the Flash, and then when he becomes the Flash, he carries it on to do it on purpose. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
So, yeah.
it's a good thing to point out because I think this character of the Flash was a direct result of the DC people up head. The people at the top of DC, I think, were responding to Marvel with their quips, and I think they overcompensated because obviously some of the earlier stuff was very dark. I mean, dark in retrospect, not very much so, but comparatively to Marvel, it was. And to have this Flash be the comic relief, I don't think it was the right way to go.
Yeah, and they're trying to course correct in this film, aren't they? And like Ben just said, the way they tried to do it,
I don't think they course corrected it at all.
Well, no, the way they tried to fix it. Well, like the way Ben just said is the way they tried to fix it was, let's have an alternate version of him, but have him be a really fucking stupid guy. So by comparison, he doesn't look like such an idiot. So yeah, I agree with you guys on that one there. One performance I thought that was good though is Marielle Verdu as Nora Allen, and I thought their relationship was done pretty well. I mean, she's not in it a lot, because she gets murdered all the time in every iteration, pretty much. But I thought they really sold the relationship quite well. Also, she was great in Why Tu Mami Tambien all those years ago, which is like a massive Spanish language film that launched. Diego Luna was in it, and I forget who the other actor was, but they was massive though. Like that's the film that kind of kickstarted all their careers.
I think she brought a really good heart to the mother role. Like it was a very believable scenario. It wasn't just like a woman who happens to be his mom.
Although they did change his dad because it was Billy Crudup in the Justice League films, and then it was Ron Livingston in this.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I'm a big fan of Billy Crudup, so I was a little sad to see that.
I feel like both his parents did a really good job, and I don't think that the heart of this movie, like from their point of view, is in any consequence. I do feel like it is less to do with Miller than it is to do with everybody else around him. Like those scenes in particular, he was just this guy that missed his mum, but she was truly a mother that cared about her kid. And the way that I read that scene again was just she actually acted rings around everybody in those scenes. She was truly great. And you could honestly, she could have been talking to 1998 Macaulay Culkin, and you would have believed fucking absolutely everything in that scene. Again, I think that's just her natural talent and her talent as an actor more than well-written, considered screenplay.
Now, one other thing is we had a cameo yet again from Wonder Woman, who seems to be the queen of cameos now, rocking up in Shazam and rocking up here. And I thought it was a fun moment when Batman and the Flash accidentally hold the lasso of truth. That got a laugh out of it.
Yes, I thought it was hilarious. And to be honest, I think they both scenarios with Shazam and this movie, they should have used her more. It was just a shame that she's a cameo person now.
Well, to be fair as well, I'm not a fan of Gal Gadot. I don't think she can act. I think she's a very attractive woman and she can do the action stuff, or her stunt double can do the action stuff, and that's why she gets cast. But if I remember, what was the film? What was the Kenneth Branagh murder mystery one, the Pyro one, Death on the Nile, and she's supposed to be like the lead in that. And you see any scene with her and Emma Mackey from Sex Education, and she just destroys her on screen in the acting stakes every time. It's like watching a Rottweiler kill a small puppy. You're just like, okay, it's not even fair because she's just such a much better actress than she is. I hopefully they're done with her now. That's it. Please don't have her turn up in Aquaman 2.
But I mean, I feel like in the sense of yes, she may not be a good actress, and yes, play up her strengths. Use her stunt double at least, because it would have been more interesting to see her maybe even save Batman in a more dramatic way than just there's a rope.
I think we need to talk about what clearly, for me at least, was the best thing in the film, and that is Michael Keaton's return as Batman. And I love the fact that he retired and succeeded, and basically got his Gotham was now one of the safest cities going. And I just got really big Lebowski vibes from him, because he was Batman.
Did he kill the Joker?
Why?
Well, we don't get any details. If you listen to the thinly fucking thought out time travel theory on this stupid movie, he compares it to a bowl of spaghetti, which I'm so you mix a bunch of metaphors, right? So I'm gonna preface this by telling you what I hate about time travel movies when they get it wrong, and I'm a big fan of time travel.
Okay.
you have to make your rules and you have to stick to them. Right? So Back to the Future makes its rules. It's like you go backwards in time, you fuck with something, it messes up your future. Doesn't say anything about going backwards through time. Fair enough, you don't have to worry about that. I have a big problem with Looper for the same reason, because it comes up with some washy ideas about what time travel really is. And when it gets challenged in the movie, it goes, don't think about that. It gives you a headache. I believe that is like,
I believe that's what
Ooh,
they also say that in Tenet as well, don't they?
Really difficult to follow in the first place. And I feel like the rule they set there is like just fucking, there are no rules. If you can follow it, good luck. And I'm still trying to figure that movie out. So
I got a YouTube video for you then.
Please, yes, like send me all of the things that will make me not sleep more.
Yes.
The problem with this movie is they mash two ideas together and never really kind of solidify which one like is key. So in this pivotal scene where Michael Keaton comes back in glorious fashion, I might add, it was a fantastic scene. I really do agree that everything that he does in this movie is phenomenal. The idea is he takes like an uncooked piece of spaghetti and goes, imagine this is how you see time. You start here and you end here. And then he snaps it and goes, oh no, he lays one across the other, doesn't he? That's it. He lays one across the other and he's like, there are fixed points, but intersections where they cross over, and these things are things you can't change. And you're like, all right, well, that's foreshadowing for something. Fair enough. Then he gets cooked spaghetti and he throws it in the dish and he goes, yeah, sometimes when you fuck around with time too much, it causes this. And he goes, it's a multiverse. And I'm like, right. So, he also explains in that moment that when you change something at one of these intersections, it changes what happens in the past as well as happens in the future. So that's where I start to come apart on the whole thing. I'm like, right. So my past, so I go back in time and I fuck with something. So that's now my past. So now the past that I've just fucked with, the thing I've just fucked with, that has repercussions going backwards. Like, what does he say? Like dropping a stone in a pond.
Yeah, well, like the Grey Sports Almanac in Back to the Future 2.
Except that doesn't change what happens moving back through time from the point they were just at. This is where it falls apart for me. He's gone back in time and they're explaining what's happened at the point that he's changed, and obviously he's come forward in time a little bit and not landed where he wanted to land. That's quite an important part as well. But not only so, he's gone back in his own universe, as far as we can tell. He's gone forwards in time in his own universe, not landed where he came from, but just fell short of it a little bit. And then there's a completely fucking different Batman, like completely different Batman, and I'm like, that's a hard sell. Like, oh, and then in my mind, I'm like, well, he's jumped universes. I see what's happened. He's run so fast. He's stumbled into another universe because he's a klutz. But no, apparently, if you fuck with time, that also fucks with dimensional travel as well.
In your own universe. Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Ben, I think I can say you have thought about this more than the scriptwriters did.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will continue to until I fix it.
And you keep trying again and again and going back into.
It's a hard job to get stuff like that right, but they overcomplicated it and they tried to cram. So what happened for me was they got the best parts of Flashpoint, shat all over them, and then went, oh, we're out of ideas. And someone just went, oh, have you heard of Crisis on Infinite Earths? And they went, ooh, what's that? And they fucking dived into that, and they took all the best bits from that and fucked with them as well.
And ruined two classic comics in one.
Yeah, two of the biggest intersections, if you like, in comic history of the DC universe.
Did you ever see the Crisis on Infinite Earths Arrowverse TV show thing?
Yes.
They did it better, didn't they?
They did way better.
Wow.
But and you know what? DC is beholden to Warner Brothers, and there's a whole world of trouble there because Warner Brothers stick their nose in and go, oh, we want it to appeal to this demographic and we want this to happen and blah, blah, blah. So DC, unlike Marvel, don't have final say on their movies. And when the money comes from, partly DC, but also massively from Warner Brothers, they're never going to have the opportunity to go, this is what will sell. And the argument that is never ever made or brought up enough, never ever made, but not brought up enough, is that DC crushes Marvel in all of their animations. Name me a bad fucking DC animated movie or TV show. I can't
Off
think
the
of
top
one.
of my head, I couldn't name you a Marvel animation, actually, to be fair.
Right. So they've
there's
done
some, but
Iron
they're
Man,
more
some,
geared
but-
for young kids. I feel like you're right. The DC cartoons, they hold the standard for what these movies should be,
yeah,
and they just don't follow up properly.
correct. I completely agree.
If there was only an exec there who had the connective tissue to go, well, with Disney, like, look at what Disney do. They're basically making live action versions of all their animation show movies from the past. Look, we've got this great back catalogue of amazing DC animated films. Why don't we do them live action? I mean, that's the corporate mentality way of doing it, but
Yeah.
you would have brilliant source material to do it from, and they have got brilliant source material. Let's quickly move on to Sasha Calle as Supergirl. She was okay for the brief amount of time we saw her.
I think I think with this character is just that they rushed through her motivations. You know,
She was more a MacGuffin to fight Zod than anything else. That's literally
Yes.
her only reason to be in the film. We need someone to tie up Zod. It can be her, right? And that was it, really. And she didn't really
Also,
do anything else.
something funny that I didn't really catch, honestly, and my friends did, which is another thing that upset them, is she was held in a Soviet pod or in the Russia
Mhm.
the whole time she was on Earth.
Yeah.
And then they rescued her and she knew English immediately. So they're like, how does she know English if she's been held in Russia the whole time? But if you think about it, the aliens know English, right? How did they figure it out? Like, is English the standard language? Or
Mate,
is
if they can't get a time travel, they're not going to bother with that, are they? Let's be honest. They can't figure out
But yeah,
time travel.
I just thought that was funny.
I will say one
But
thing I
that's-
did like in it: the use of the raconteur "Salute Your Solution" song for the big desert set piece fight.
Mm.
However, bar being a cool song, again, there was absolutely nothing thematically linking the song like James Gunn does in some of his best stuff to the scenes in the film. And also, it's a pretty old song by now. It's at least like 10, 15 years old. So again,
Yeah, that's not a problem.
No.
I feel like there's a lot of like that you personally put a lot of weight on like linking lyrics
Oh,
to
yeah.
songs because it is it's a lovely nod and it can be sometimes they just want a badass piece of music to like
Yeah,
kick the shit out of people too, and I care as well. But can I just go back to that Russian
Yeah.
stronghold, which for me was the best fight sequence of a DC movie
Yeah.
so far.
Ooh.
Batman, Keaton's Batman, jumping in and literally looking around, almost like Bogart in the camera, going, "This is gonna hurt," and then jumps in and kicks the fuck out of like a whole bunch of people with like cool little gizmos but true to the old like the original Batman movies that I love.
Because
You know,
it
like
doesn't kill.
that whole fight was amazing, and then
It was.
like it started for me the thing that I realized about this movie, which was, oh, this is like a really good like series, and it would be far better if the Flash wasn't in it, because all the bits without the Flash were fucking great.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Actually, I mean, I think Miller did an okay job portraying. I mean, you think the amount of shit that was going on in their personal life at the time, and the performance. Actually, I mean, I didn't mind it too much. But I will say they did get me at the end with the Clooney reveal, because I could have sworn that was going to be Keaton. I thought that Keaton was that fucking
Fuck
good.
that!
Is that your
No. Oh my god!
I mean, it could have
really?
been worse.
Like,
There was 2 other alternatives as well. And did you know
Well, you
that
can't-
Bale was offered the opportunity? He
Yeah,
turned
and
it down
Pale's like,
flatly.
fuck no. Like Ben said, he read the scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And what did they
I
try and
mean-
get Pattinson in as well then? And Pattinson was like, fuck no.
Oh, did they? I didn't know about that one.
I don't know. We said 2 alternatives, and obviously the only other one would be Val Kilmer, and he's not can't really
he's
do
not
anything
capable.
these days. No.
No.
So
I think that there was just a lot of filler in terms of like him and his younger version. As much as I love the Back to the Future back and forth,
yeah,
that
I did
scene
like that.
could've-
The
that
Eric
could've been
Stoltz
cut.
bit, man. I love the Eric Stoltz bit.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Eric Stoltz plays Marty McFly, and the Stoltz tattoo was pretty funny, man.
That was good.
And-
yeah.
But I know, like I say, and the whole going back and changing one thing and then it fucking up the future, your past and future, is basically the plot of Back to the Future 2. But obviously, that was written a shitload better.
But it's still a different version of time travel though. Like it's like to be screwed down on it. It's like they tried that same kind of thing, but for me the ripples go too far backwards. It's like, why does it change entire human beings? Like that is a multiversal question, not a time travel question.
Got a good point there, because that's the weird thing, because when we had alternate versions of Batman, Superman, etc., and they were played by completely different actors playing the roles. And I thought that's something we might have seen in Marvel in Multiverse of Madness, because there was all those rumors floating around that Tom Cruise might be playing a version of Iron Man. But instead, all we got was actors we'd already seen in the MCU, just playing different versions of characters we'd already seen. Bar Krasinski.
And a really great version of Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Oh, you are a Krasinski fan.
I thought it was fucking brilliant. Yeah, really did like it.
I've seen a lot of
that was a
lot of
great line she says to him as well. Is your children's mother alive? Yes.
Oh man. I'm on the fence. I don't think he did a bad performance, but I don't think he should be the final decision on Reed Richards.
Well, they reckon it's going to be Adam Driver now. Adam Driver and Margot Robbie.
I think that's odd choice. I think that is too on the nose, honestly.
I mean,
Margot Robbie's in the DC embedded in a good character, honestly.
And
doesn't make sense.
Paul Mescal as the Human Torch.
I like that one, honestly. I feel like the only two that don't make sense is Adam Driver and Margot Robbie. They're Adam Driver. There's some leniency.
Driver, I could see as Doctor Doom, to be fair, more than Reed Richards. Can you?
A little bit, yeah. But he's supposed to be more handsome behind the mask.
Anyway, getting back to that. So
I can't weigh in here, otherwise this podcast is going to be 4 days long.
I went to go look up the Derry Girls actress.
Saoirse Monica Jackson.
Saoirse, yes.
Saoirse, yeah.
Not Ronan, but Monica Jackson.
We do have a habit on this podcast of absolutely murdering Irish names, so much so that we got sent a fucking voice note on how to pronounce Barry Cohen's name properly.
I don't know if this is even going to make it back in, but during our little break, I went to look up Saoirse Monica, and then I just, by coincidence, the website was putting a trailer. Saoirse Monica. I forgot her name already. Monica something. Anyways, I was looking for the Derry Girls character, and there was the Flash trailer playing, and I was like, oh, let me look back at it now that I've really had time to sink in. And some of the scenes in the trailer still hit hard, you know. Ironically, mostly the Batman stuff.
Batman, yeah.
And then the Supergirl moments where she's like, "What did you do?" And there's so much potential in this movie.
Maybe one of her 2 or 3 lines of dialogue in the whole film.
Right. And I just think that they had the elements there, and they were probably really close, but it just didn't come together as well as I would have liked.
I think it's Ben kind of hinted it in the last part where he's kind of saying DC overall don't have that. They got to answer to Warner Brothers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Marvel and Disney, I think they have a better, you know, I think because it's been proven by like Kevin Feige making all the money for the House of Mouse, they just let them do what they want. Even the bad films still make a ton of money, you know.
I think it almost kind of does show the same thing happened with the Marvel TV shows. You know, with that previous head of Disney meddling with things, and then Bob Iger came back. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
And then Bob Iger came back, and now things are being course corrected because a lot of people were not happy with the TV shows. And I think Marvel wasn't immune to it, but I think we saw it more in their shows versus the movies. And with DC, since the movies are more of what we see in general, I don't think the cartoon movies.
Well, ironically, DC have had a couple of better shows. I mean, Peacemaker, for example. I mean, it's James Gunn, right?
Rubbish.
But you haven't seen Peacemaker, right? Ben didn't like the Suicide Squad either, though. So
Suicide Squad?
Yeah,
I didn't like it. Since we last talked, I tried to watch Peacemaker because I was like, I'll give it a go. Come on, man.
But no, if you don't like the Suicide Squad, it's James Gunn. You're not going to like that.
Yeah,
it's weird because Gunn is one of my favorite things about the Marvel universe. Like, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy that we talked about last time is phenomenal. I just don't know how it can be mishandled so like continuously. And I'm really interested to see what is on the cutting room floor of Supergirl scenes, because I reckon that she had some real weighty stuff in there, and they just went, don't listen to her. She's a girl. Warner Brothers is like, what do girls know about being superheroes? Which we've already talked about. Like, you know, you can't have a successful female superhero without someone kicking off about it, which is childish. Like,
well, there's kind of a tenuous link to that. There was a very minor role in this film for Derry Girls, Saoirse Monica Jackson, who I thought, because just what she looks like in Derry Girls, I thought she's going to be the new version of Caitlin Snow, who becomes Killer Frost. So they're setting her up on like an up. No, she was Patty Spivot, who's like a really minor character.
Yeah,
she's in the Flash TV show, because I watched that for about the first 4 seasons, I think. Then it started to drop a bit, but they were like the really good years of it. And they brought in that character there, and she literally, you could look and go, oh, so she's literally just been brought in to stop Barry getting together with Iris this early on. And but there wasn't even a hint, and she was funny. She had like maybe 2 scenes in the whole film, but she was funny. And I was like, oh, that's a bit of a, because I remember thinking when there was all this stuff to do with film, I was like, what a kick in the balls that must be. Like, this is your first breakout Hollywood superhero film. You've come from a really well-regarded TV show. It's your first big Hollywood film. It's been sat on a fucking shelf for 2 years. So that's who I was really even like annoyed for. Like all the people who'd put their time in that working into the film. And then like Miller was on the verge of fucking it all up for the rest of them. So, but then she barely had anything to do in the film anyway. And again, I like to have seen how much she actually had to do in this film. Same with Sod. Shannon basically just copy and pasted his role from the other ones, didn't he? He came, he saw, he did nothing once again, pretty much.
You know what? It was relegated to action, but this is a weird coincidence, but I just recently watched Man of Steel again, just because I was like curious, and Zod was such a dramatic character that
he's a superb actor, Shannon. That's why.
Yeah, and he didn't even fight that much in Man of Steel until the end. Like he was mostly, just
charismatic. Traffic.
Yeah, and I really feel like. Yeah, I really feel like he got shortchanged into an action role in this one because
I wonder if it was just in a contract. By the way, you were in this mini sequels. Okay.
Well, I saw an interview
counting his money.
I saw an interview where he talked about in Man of Steel he did months of training, and literally in The Flash he said he was in and out in a few weeks tops.
Yeah.
And so like he was like, yeah, I really didn't do much, and I think it kind of shows why he was able to go in and out so quickly.
Now, one thing I wasn't clear on in the movie is who was it who killed Barry's mother?
The whole thing?
No, who was it who killed Barry's mother?
It's because it's bad.
Was it actually Barry? Like
no,
but who killed his mother then? Because I wasn't quite clear on that.
I don't think they even hint.
I thought they were hinting that it was the version of Barry that we see in the Speed Force who's been doing that. Because he had to go back but then he was trying to save her, so that didn't make any sense either.
Yes, here's a fun fact. If you think about it, since we're already talking spoilers, well, when Barry goes back, changes the past, and he's on his way back to the future, how does he come across that point of time? He gets knocked out
by the other one, by himself.
By himself. So I feel like technically he knew when to push him out to meet up with him at the right time. So I don't think it was Barry who killed his mother, and at least in this movie.
Right. On that
knuckles
point,
cracking.
If Barry knew when to knock himself out of the Speed Force to make that whole thing happen, but also when you fuck with time, it changes the past and the present from that point outwards. How do you know it was the right fucking place in time to knock him out of the Speed Force? Because it could have changed what happened. Like, it's another glaring plot hole that they try to cover up with like clever, like, multiversal talk, which again falls flat on its ass when you challenge it. Like, at least in other time travel movies, when you challenge their time travel stuff, they can kind of go, well, yeah, it's a bit tenuous, and you suspend disbelief at a point. But for me, you have to put disbelief in the toilet and leave it there where this movie belongs, and then you have to keep watching the movie anyway because you paid for it.
Well, I think the problem that I see with this movie, not that I agree with it, but the way that he goes forward and backward in this bubble, you're literally watching it like you're watching a TV screen, but surrounded completely. And so that's how
really bad CGI.
Yeah, I mean the whole CGI terrible thing is. I just really feel bad for the industry graphic artists, because they're getting shit on when it's really the timetables that are given.
Exactly. Anyways, 100% agree with you, man.
I think in the rules, the one thing that I think about that bubble is they made it too easy to go back and get to that bubble. I think they should the more of the emphasis should have been on trying to go back and change things and having it be difficult. Because when the second Barry learned about it, he was just like, boom, okay, let's go back and change things. Let's go back and redo the fight. And I'm like, that's not the fun of the suspense of this, seeing them die over and over again. The suspense should be just being able to try to do it again. And I think that's one of many things that could have been changed in the movie. If I'm actually trying to give some cons away.
Well, and I think definitely a con for this is, if you think about it, there isn't actually a villain in a superhero film. There's no one really for him to.
Oh yeah.
fight against in it. And the Flash has such a brilliant rogues gallery of villains as well.
Just meta bullshit. He's in a big fight with himself, trying to discover who he is. Because he's such a dumbass. No, absolutely fucking not, DC. Come on, man. Like, well, it's probably not even DC. It's probably Warner. But like, either way, like, yeah, there's no bad guy. And the second that purple dude turns up, and I'm just like, is that Reverse Flash? Could be. Like, is he gonna kill?
Is it going to be Barry? It's definitely going to be Barry.
It's definitely going to be Barry, because he needs to get paid 3 times in this movie, doesn't he? He needs to have 3 performances to get paid for in this movie. Because Benedict Cumberbatch has already done 2 in a movie, so you've got to go one better than him. Like what to what end was Ezra Miller playing 3 versions of himself? Like, what does that serve? Like, you steal away the opportunity to have a really well-class bad guy.
The execs were just sitting around and going, what if there is no villain? Oh, give him a raise. It's that kind of light bulb moment, isn't it? That's never been done in a superhero movie. That's brilliant.
What if there both is and isn't a villain? Whoa.
And it's just one actor, so you'd only have to pay one guy.
Yeah.
But 3 times, as Ben just said.
I mean, unless they're trying to get out of their contract with him, and they were like, "This actually constitutes your 3 performances."
3 appearances. You're done.
Forwards, and we can just tear this fucking contract up and get away.
Like I mentioned earlier, they're like, "Yeah, Ezra Miller's definitely going to be in the sequel." There's not going to be a sequel. I'm sure
that actually might have been quite prophetic, because in the scene where they're talking about Eric Stoltz being Marty McFly, they also I think they mentioned that there's no sequels, and I was like, cool, that's good foreshadowing for this movie.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Well, I don't know that the way that because I feel like there was a point at which the sequels were mentioned, and they all sort of looked at each other really confused. So but I don't know if that was me just wishful thinking.
It could be.
I didn't notate anything on my way out of this, because.
And you would have to watch the film again, too. And I don't think that's going to happen. So, moving close to the end of the Speed Force, I was about some of the cameos that were in the film, and there was quite a few, and some more interesting than others, shall we say.
I called one of them in the last podcast. I have to bring it up.
You did.
Totally called one of them.
However, first off, we had Tamura Morrison as Tom Curry turning up, Aquaman's dad, with a different wife who's not Nicole Kidman, so he definitely didn't have a... And the dog was called Arthur, wasn't it? Which was hilarious. They called the dog Arthur instead of having a son.
Yes.
I love this cameo, because it goes back to exactly what I just said, in that this movie is the Boba Fett of the DC universe, in that the Boba Fett TV series was way better when Boba Fett wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And the Flash, way better as a movie without the Flash in it.
That's the soundbite for the trailer there, mate.
There we go.
And again, when we get to the whole Infinite Herbs Flashpoint mashup bollocks at the end, and everything's just smashing into each other, and they're basically going through all their properties, going, "Oh, what have we got footage of that we can bung in?" You got to see George Reeves' original Superman, the black and white one, because he was the first live-action Superman, and ironically, Ben Affleck played him in a film about his troubled life called Hollywoodland. So Affleck played Superman as well, technically. So there you go, not too shabby.
Right.
We get our link to the Flash TV show as Teddy Sears appears as Jay Garrick.
Okay, because I heard a conflicting report that it looked like him, but he had said he wasn't him.
The article I read said it was. So
okay, my bad.
IMDb quickly. Someone will finish this off. But yeah, the link is basically that Teddy Sears appears as Jay Garrick, who was the original Flash in the comics, and in the TV show, Sears actually was the villain Zoom, but he pretended to be Garrick in the second season of the show. And it was a really good performance by him. Adam West's Batman turns up using archival footage from the 60s TV show.
With the actual no, which I thought, those little bubbles of cameos were definitely like my second favorite bit, next to everything Supergirl and Batman did.
But finally, we also got to see, and I think this is the one you called on a previous episode, man, Nick Cage's Superman fighting the giant spider. John Watts must be thrilled. And so for everyone who's not sure of this, apparently it's Hollywood law that once upon a time, Tim Burton was planning a Superman film with Nick Cage, scripted by Kevin Smith and produced by a veteran producer, John Watts, who Bradley Cooper played a version of in Licorice Pizza. And the legend is that Watts wanted Superman to fight a giant mechanical spider. Well, everyone else thought, it's probably the cocaine, right? Probably the cocaine. And can anyone tell me, for a bonus point, what film the giant spider fight ended up in? Because it did still
Wild West.
Wicked Wicked Wild Wild West. Yep, indeed.
Wild Wild West.
Wicca Wicca Wild Wild West.
Which was the producer from that whole thing was on both projects, wasn't it? And
John
'cause I
Watts.
read
Yeah,
that book, and that was really interesting.
he wanted a giant spider fight, and he got it. And he also sank that film. And of course, we have to talk about the main one, which we got a CGI Christopher Reeves. And man, I saw some comments online where people were just like, "Fuck these guys, it's bad." And for me, it was so short, it wasn't that massively offensive. And they did the kind of similar thing where they didn't have him speak. It was a very short shot. But surely they could have just found a shot from one of the Superman films where he's looking at something, right?
Fun fact, it's officially says archive footage for Christopher Reeve, George Reeves, Helen Slater, Supergirl, Adam West.
But they've CGI'd over it, though, haven't they?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely.
I feel like in that moment of like, because I love that Supergirl was in that as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I definitely wanted to see that in some more majesty. Like, I mean, Christopher Reeve is held as like one of the like all-time best Superman. Like,
the genre, arguably.
Because even though he was given some questionable fucking scripts, like, you know, like he just embodied everything that people wanted from Superman at that time in history. To just replay archival footage is fine, but I really like the fact that they made him a little bit more majestic, and like the sun was coming up behind him. He looked really heroic.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool, man. Like in a movie that was full of like a movie that was a dumpster fire, I was like, that's actually something that I kind of
I wasn't offended by it. I was like, oh, cool. I was like, I just wish I just wish they hadn't gutted it up as much. I just find a shot from the original film, leave it looking like it's from the original film, rather than like throwing CGI sun in the background and all that kind of stuff, and like doing all that. Because come on, there was 4 Superman films with Reeves in it. Surely there's a shot where he's like looking up, right? And they could then CGI the world's crashing in. I just think that would have played better, because like you see the black and white bits from the black and white George Reeves Superman, right? So why couldn't they do that with just, if they hadn't fucked with the footage as much, people wouldn't have cared as much, I don't think.
I don't think that's such a bad thing though. Like I think for me, if they'd have used archival footage like of a movie that I already knew about, if it was archival footage that was on the cutting room floor and it was like it'd never been seen before, that's different. But if it was from a movie that I'd seen, and
you would have known where that sequence was.
Yeah, and also like this, I don't remember that movie having a giant ball like crash into it at any point. This is fucking horseshit. It'd be another reason we're gonna hate this movie. Hate is a strong word. I very much like this movie. But that also reminds me of the bit in Batman v Superman where Barry Allen pokes his face out of one of those little time vortexy bubble things.
Oh yeah.
I've gone too far, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And then you see that kind of motion happening when he's in that stupid time bubble where his legs are moving really slowly and everything's really fast around him. Like I think that they don't even like touch on that, which is something they could have tied up. He could have stuck his face out and gone, "Whoops, sorry, I've gone too far," and then he could have come back in and carried on running. They didn't even touch back to the stuff that they fucked up in the past that they could have fixed with 30 seconds worth of footage. Like,
yeah,
come on!
I didn't even recognize Ezra Miller in that scene. It took me a while to realize who that was supposed to be.
Well, like we say, there's some stunning CGI, but as we say, it's not down to like the bad CGI arts. It's down to them not being given enough time and this mad crunch. Yeah. There was someone, I remember reading an article somewhere was saying that because there's so many of these type of films in production, there literally isn't enough people to do it, and they're literally just pulling people from project to project, and it's just basically a massive shit show. So I think we're coming towards the end there. So let's go for overall scores out of 10. Now, I really liked this when I saw it, right? And I'll agree with you, Ben, on almost everything you said. But at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it while I watched it, because I just enjoyed it while I was watching it.
I don't mind. You've been wrong before, mate, and you'll be wrong again. So that's fine. That's what I'm here for. Checks and balances, brother.
So I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Wrong.
I was gonna say I'm kind of in the same boat as Neil. I know that is not
that by thinking
it's not
on fire.
It doesn't follow.
I promise you.
It doesn't follow what it needs to be a proper Flash movie, but as a whole, I felt entertained the whole time I watched it. I knew things were wrong, even though I didn't know the character, and I knew that they had done better versions with the show from what I've heard. But I still had fun. So again, I'm going to give it a 7 as well.
Ooh.
Wrong.
Right. The only question here is did you say already?
What was
I
that?
haven't said already. No.
Oh, I thought you said one.
No, I said wrong.
Wrong. Okay.
Because apparently that's the guy I am right now. Okay. I want to give this film like -1 out of 10, but just because of how great Michael Keaton, the Keaton Batman and Supergirl were. That fight scene in the Russian gulag, which I'm sure the Russians really love right now, in the middle of all the trouble that they've kicked off, being represented like that again. That was fantastic. Because I called the Nicolas Cage thing, this film is going to get 2 out of 10, and that is the most charitable I've been in a long time.
Wow. It's a very strong words right there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that we have a nice little balance.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what Warner and that were trying to do, they were trying to make this the DCU's No Way Home, right? But they were massively away from that in terms of critical success. And I mean, the box office for this has been an absolute shit show. They were predicting it was going to top out around 280 to 300 million, which, although not a hit, it's nowhere near as bad financially as some other lambasted superhero films. However, it doesn't do really well against an estimated budget of 190 million, and then they spent another 150 million on the marketing for it. I mean, that's insane. If you have to spend almost 3/4 of the budget of the film on marketing to get people to go and see it, then just... And they're wondering why.
You know what the weird thing is? It didn't feel like that big of a marketing push. It felt like, yes, we knew about the movie and we saw Batman, but it didn't feel like there was a lot of other stuff going with it. There was no websites that I knew of, no social media push. Really,
they wouldn't even run the full. Well, as I mentioned earlier, they wouldn't even run the full trailer in the cinema. They'd clearly just blown through all the money from it. So I think finally, what is next for the Flash? Well, let's be honest, it's not done well enough at the box office, so it's going to make the decision to drop Miller much easier. And I reckon that, well, because we've seen like Gunn and Co.'s kind of initial plan, their initial phase for the DCU. And my only surprise really was that they didn't kill off Miller's Flash at the end and bring in a new Flash. But I reckon the only reason they've not done that is because they're just going to want to get away from the Justice League for the time being. They're like, right, we don't want to do it. Because what will happen, I bet you money, I forget all the lineup of films, but his main one is, and we can talk about this briefly, is new Superman, who was cast yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, what, Henry Cavill?
No, like young Henry Cavill.
He looks like a young Henry Cavill. Why get rid of Henry Cavill? You're just going to cast a guy that looks exactly the fucking same as him.
They need more time with the movies.
Isn't Cavill in his 40s now? Like
he's getting up there. He's getting up there.
Butt, bro.
Oh, definitely.
Well, clearly. But he's Corin Sweat's only 29, so he's got a decade in him for Superman, right? My only thing, because they were testing different pairs, I was reading online, and said it was David Corin Sweat,
and they said the pair was better of an actor than Ezra Miller, so they're going to cast him as the Flash.
But they cast the other, and he was paired with Emma Mackey though for Lois Lane.
All right,
and I can see that, but she didn't get the role. It ended up going to Rachel Brosnahan, who from The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I'm very excited, and I'm curious to see what her take is, because I feel like too many people think she's going to be like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but that's
is that fast-talking His Girl Friday kind of thing.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be like that, but...
No, because it's going to be a modern film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, exactly. We don't know fuck all about it yet. But it's funny, some of the other rumours they were talking about, that for Lex Luthor, they've just decided it's going to be one of the Skarsgård brothers. So literally, it's between Alexander Skarsgård, who would be perfect,
really?
Or Bill Skarsgård as well, who, if you want a creepier looking Skarsgård. So,
well, it's funny because I heard that one of the potential Supermen was what's his name, the guy who played Beast in the X-Men.
Oh, Nicholas Hoult,
Nicholas Hoult.
Man in Hollywood.
They were thinking of maybe pushing him to be.
He tried. He played. He has been rumored to be a villain, but it was funny, man. He was up for Superman, didn't get it. He was up for Batman, didn't get it, and it was like. Yeah. He was even Tom Cruise apparently wanted him to be the villain in the new Mission Impossible, and something happened there, and he didn't get it. So I mean,
oh wow,
he's not had a good run of luck.
The first time Tom Cruise didn't get his way in a movie ever.
Yeah, perhaps he's not a Scientologist. Perhaps that's it.
Perhaps he's not high enough level Scientologist.
Ooh,
yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
He's at like shoeshine level Scientologist now. He's got to be at like, I don't know, wardrobe technician Scientologist before he's considered for role. Scientology works.
I don't like
So,
to joke around that Scientology stuff because it's in a city that's within driving distance of me.
Oh wow, yeah. Jose's in the
Yeah.
middle of it.
Don't tell them that you're in Hawaii, Jose. Shh.
All right, guys. Well, I think that about wraps us up on our Flash spoiler special. I would say if you're a fan of the comic books, then perhaps don't go and see it. I definitely think there's something that's not, catch it on streaming if you feel like it. But, I think by the time this pod comes out, it's not going to be in the cinemas anymore. It's going to be gone.
And that's probably a good thing. Like, I do agree though. Like, if it's just a harmless bit of fun you want, and you're not like as into the lore as like someone like me, then you'll have a blast watching it, and it's fun enough. But like, I'm still out.
For me, the best Flash still was the first series of the TV show. I thought was superb.
Mm-hmm. Really?
That was like the first series of the Flash TV show, Jose, is masterful. It's probably the best DC TV out there. I thought they did. And it was 22 episodes, and they just, again, did that same story that they crunched badly into a 2-hour film into 22 hours, and they just did it really well. Yeah.
Here's a question, because I think it's something that we didn't cover, which I'm surprised about, is the slow motion scenes, the speed scenes. I mean, aside from them being very cartoonish, did you think the approach to them was okay?
There wasn't that many. They just stuck him in the ball for most of the film, didn't they?
Couldn't stand it. Any of the stuff where he was running, like when he was running the first time, any time where you've got a speedster running and his legs move really slowly, I never understand that. Like, I've never understood that whole, like, everything's rushing past it like fucking 1,000 miles an hour. He's running faster than the speed of sound, but his legs are moving just like he's on a treadmill doing 3 miles an hour. Gotcha. And I'm like, I'm with, like, I get that there's that optical illusion when you film something, it looks like stuff's going backwards. Like if a wheel's turning, it looks like it's going backwards because of frame rate. Like, if you want to do something like that, that's different. I've never seen that before. That's kind of cool. But like, why does he have to look like he's running in slow motion when everything's going really fast around him? It's like, it's a juxtaposition that doesn't make any sense to me. It just pulls me out of the magic of it all.
Do you think that Marvel kind of or not even Marvel? Do you think Fox was the one to kind of nail it on the head with the way that Quicksilver? Really?
No, I prefer Whedon's Quicksilver from Age of Ultron. I think for me that's definitive.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's a bit more gritty, a little bit more grounded. He's got like a trail that disappears, like a vapor trail. Like, it's just everything just about that just fitted for me.
What about the one from the Eternals? I actually like that one a lot.
Barry Cohen.
I don't know what movie you're talking about. I don't remember there being a Marvel movie called Eternals. It sounds like if there was, it would be fucking awful.
And on that note, I think it's time to call it a day on our Flash spoiler special.
If you like things that we do on the thing, here's a thing that you can do with the thing and stuff.
Yes, and on Twitter. Yeah, you can follow us at Needed Roads on Twitter, and we post on there quite often. We take advice, we give advice, and we sound like a psychiatrist now. It's been a long day, and I'm definitely not going to try and run back in time to fix the day ahead of me, because shit goes wrong, as we clearly saw. See you next time, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
We Needed Roads.